income. And for what female bodybuilders do, not every woman wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of it is, not every woman can be a female bodybuilder. It's just not, I don't care how hard they train and do whatever they do, it's just never going to happen. I do think, sadly, that female bodybuilding is still a niche sport. And it was that way when I competed. I think it's still that way today, even with the exposure, even with now we have the internet, we have IG, we have TikTok, we have all those apps, which gives us more notoriety, but it's still a niche sport. It's still not accepted by your mainstream. And even though we're in 2025, I think there is still a lot of do's and don'ts for women in sports, female bodybuilding being one of them.
Can I ask a question? Like, do you pay attention to the other divisions,
I
like
do look at the
bikini
other
or?
divisions. I do observe that physique, women's physique, is now very close to a low end of female bodybuilding. The bikini, every physique, when they implemented it first, you can definitely tell, okay, she's bikini or she's, physique. But now with some of the physique, uh, they can be in the bodybuilding group. And said a lot of them have come over to bodybuilding. So I think the groups, they continue to excel and develop until they're going to have to put something else in, because you're going to have to put the reins on it, just like they did with female bodybuilding. In reference to, with us, it was, now you're getting too big. Now you're getting too striated. You need to tone it down a bit. So I'm just curious to see what they're going to do with physique, uh, what they're going to do with wellness, what they're going to do with bikini. Because again, some of the physique models, if you look at our current Miss Olympia, Andrea Shaw, where did she originally start?
Physique. Actually, figure. She actually started figure first, and then she went up to physique later on.
Yes, she went to physique, and then where did she end up?
Women's bodybuilding.
But in women's bodybuilding. Um, I can't remember the other lady. I think she just won the triple O. Her name is on the
Uh,
tip.
I mean, Salika.
She was physique and she came over to female bodybuilding. Her first triple O, I think she got third. This
Oh, you
time she
talk about? Oh, you talking about? Are you talking about the first triple O? Or you talking about the
she
second?
took this year at the triple O, she got first in the bodybuilding category, but she was physique. She was in the same category as Andrea Shaw, and she crossed over.
Well, so I
She's a
found
black woman.
that's Salika, right? Because Salika's the one who won it, but Salika earned her pro card as a bodybuilder, and I think she's been bodybuilding for a long time. I don't think she might have done physique. Like a lot of, you remember, a lot of competitors do physique because they feel like it was supposed to be replacement for women's bodybuilding. But I know Salika earned her pro card at nationals because she was up against uh, Marilyn Yee, and she took the overall title and won the in her class for women's bodybuilding. Um, Chelsea, she earned her pro card as a bodybuilder, but she was doing physique for a good while. And oh, you're talking about Mela, because Mela's the one. She competed at Triple O. She actually was figure, and Mela crossed. She did physique, and then later on, I think she was. I remember the story was told. This was told to me by Jada Beverly. That year they competed at it was the Ultimate Classic, and I think it was in 2020. And they were told, both her and and Jayla Turd to move up to women's bodybuilding. And the next show that Mela did was the New York Pro, where she won her qualification because she already been to the Olympic before in women's physique. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of Mela. Give me a second.
Okay, now she could have done the New York Pro. She could have done the New York Pro not this year, but the year before, because that was her pro debut.
Her pro debut. That was, we talk about Ashley.
Yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Ashley. Oh yeah, Ashley. That's what we're talking about. Well, yeah, Ashley. You remember she started out in figure,
And
and
she went to physique,
uh-huh.
and then she went over to female bodybuilding. So what I'm saying is, those two, right? If they would have never, let's say hypothetically, they would have never crossed over. They could have, by all means, been bodybuilders, right? All right. So this is what physique. Now, obviously, she's made some changes to come into the female bodybuilding category, but really not anything that I would say is over the top. You know what I mean? She was already there. She may have refined some things. She may have changed her diet a little bit more to come in harder and leaner. But that is what, if you take her down a couple of notches, that is what you're looking at in your physique now. So physique, some of those physique women, they are, in my opinion, right on knocking on the door of female bodybuilding. And so what I'm saying is all of the classes, they're developing quite quickly. And now I'm sure that a lot of women don't want to look like physique. You know what I mean? So you have bikini, and bikini is coming up as well. So now this fit, because when bikini first came out, I was like, okay, well, that's any girl off the beach. You can find a lot of bikini girls on the beach, right? So now you have fit. So what actually is the difference between fit and bikini? Are they toned women? Do they have, you know what I mean? How am I going to be able to tell bikini from this new group, this fit? Are they going to be one and the same? Is it just going to be, they're going to be a little harder, a little fuller? You know what I mean? And so how long is it going to be before they start to evolve and become, like I said, a little larger, a little harder? And they're no longer really in that category what they started out with. This is a transition that has been historical throughout women's bodybuilding. Because if you look at in the 70s and 80s, if you look at the 80s even, and you look at now, we've come a long way. Even if you look at the 90s, when I came into the sport, it was actually 89. I turned pro in 91. All right. So Laura Caval was there with me. Linda Murray was there with me. Diana Dennis was there with me. Vicki Gates was there with me. Yolanda Hughes was there with me. Jackie Paisley. All of those ladies were there when I was coming up in the sport. Andrea Langer was there with me. Sharon Bruneau. All right. Denise Rokowski as well. So we've all really, progressed up into the 2000s. Even Kim Shavesky was there when I was coming up. So when you're looking at those ladies back then and you look at those ladies now, there is a big difference. And I guess my question is, you got this new group, which is fine. Which is fine because at the end of the day, you want to pull in more money for your sport. Okay, you're trying to transition possibly so it's more acceptable in the public eye. So maybe you can get some contracts, maybe you can get some commercials, on how bodybuilding has changed and we're all about health and fitness, and you have this new group. But why couldn't you do that with bikini? Because at the end of the day, this is a business. It's a sport, but it's a business to line your pockets. And that's what most businesses come down to. It's money. It's about money. I don't know what the numbers are, how much you're actually prospering, with female bodybuilding and figure and fitness and all those other groups. But there has to be a demand for them to bring in the fit category. Maybe I'm just viewing this a little differently, but you don't bring in a group unless you have a demand for it.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you look at the overall picture and say, you know what, I've been out talking to the women and this and that, and you know, fitness, our figure is now, our physique is now getting really, really close to female bodybuilding. A lot of women don't want to look like that, and again, a lot of women's not going to be able to look like that because it's a totally different mindset. You got bikini; they're coming in a little harder. They're probably. I'm not saying all of them doing more subs or PEDs. Maybe they're doing, some other type of supplements, but uh, they could be doing peptides. Who knows? But there's a change. That's all that I'm saying. There's a trend. A change that's coming slowly but surely with each group of women as we start. And in order to bring in a new group, you have to have a demand for that group.
Mm-hmm.
Or either you take your chances, you introduce a group, you take your chances and say, okay, let's introduce this group, let's really promote it, let's see what happens with this group. Let's see if this is accepted by the norm. And if it is, maybe we can run with this group and open it up to mainstream and introduce other things, contracts, more health and fitness. Because now, whoever that person is, or however that group is designed, now for your everyday mom, let's say a mom or some girl who wants to be fit, I can look like her. That's attainable. Women's bodybuilding and in today's physique is not attainable without a lot of sacrifice. And
Yeah.
so that's always been my question. Okay, now you have this group, obviously, like I said, you have a demand for it. I don't know what the protocol is actually going to be. How are you going to promote it, right? What's the prize money going to be? Because we've been stuck, it seems like, at 50, 60, or 100. I think the triple O came up to 100,000, I
Yeah.
believe.
The triple O was, for women's bodybuilding, it was 7,000.
Okay, was that the
And
grant? I thought he raised that for the,
you,
the
you,
total.
you, which one are you talking about? Triple O, or are you talking about the Rising Phoenix?
I'm sorry, the Rising Phoenix.
Well, as you know, this year's Rising Phoenix, now last year was $50,000. Plus there was, like, you had the prize money for best poser, most muscular. You used to have the little video thing, but they dropped that. They don't do that anymore.
Right, they stopped that.
And yeah, and Andre used to win a car, but they dropped that too.
Right,
But now the prize money is going to drop. For first place, it's going to be like
right,
$25,000, I believe, and also they're gonna cut out a lot of incentives, because what they do was a lot of the competitors would get little incentives, and it's no longer an invitation, because what they did was
right,
they make it an open show, because there was plans going to be a show in Texas, and since Texas dropped women's bodybuilding because they couldn't find a sponsor to sponsor the division, then they turned it into the right, because technically the right thing is Olympic qualification. But as long as you have Andrea or Angela or any other competitors who already get their Olympic qualification competing there, anybody else who gets invited who doesn't have it, you don't really have a chance.
right, right. And that's, yeah, and that's true. Like I said, the prize money um, last year was, like I said, you had your top three. You had Andrea, you had Angie, and then I keep forgetting the other girl's name.
Ashley.
Yeah, Ashley. Those were your top three. All right. So this year he switched some things up. You're right. He lowered the prize money. It wasn't invitational anymore. Andrea wasn't there. You didn't have Angie there either. So that left the door open for Ashley and some of the other competitors, to come up. But again, my question, is still, when you're looking at the prize money, it's like apples and oranges to the men. And I know that it's been said it's because we don't sell tickets. That is what, women's bodybuilding does not sell tickets. And you can't raise the prize money unless your ticket sales are up. And that's always been the argument that they've had. That's why the men, their prize money continues to go up, because they sell tickets. How true that is, I actually don't know, because as of lately, we've never been on the same night with the men. We've always been on a separate night, and men have been with, I think, bikini or figure or fitness, one of the two, for most of the shows. But there's, like I said, in my opinion, a lot of changing going on. It's going to be interesting to see when the dust settles where everything is, how they implement that prize money, how they promote this new group, and how many women come into that group and what they do in reference to it as far as promoting it to the mainstream. Because I haven't seen, and this is just my research, I haven't seen when I'm, online or out and about, talking to people, I haven't seen this sport really blossom, even with bikini. Yes, you have a lot of bikini competitors. That's true. But if you're trying to get this into the mainstream, like it was back in the day, uh, I believe it was ABC or one of the sports channels, they would cover the Olympia, they would cover the Arnolds. And that's what Joe Weider was trying to do, is get this into the mainstream, because he technically wanted to get it into the Olympics, and that never happened. And that was partially because of the drug testing and the thing with you're looking at a bodybuilder, you're also looking at PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. So they didn't want that in the Olympic, because since we wear our physiques, it's normally assumed, well, she wouldn't look like that or he wouldn't look like that without drugs. And then on the flip side, you can have somebody taking PEDs um, and taking peptides, and you wouldn't even know it, because whatever they're doing is not working. You still have to work at it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You still have to work regardless.
Yeah.
When you was competing, you ever got any prize money?
Excuse me?
No, I said while you was competing, when like you was competing, did you ever got any prize money? Like, um,
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough. I did several Olympiads, and some of those Olympias I placed in the money. I won some titles as a pro, placed in the money there. There was a lot of opportunities in reference to traveling abroad, because a lot of countries wanted to see female bodybuilding and they wanted to implement that to the women in their country. So I'm not for sure how it is now. From the ladies that I speak to, they don't have those opportunities. But I was able to travel abroad, out of the States, live out of the States, because of female bodybuilding. So that's what I'm saying. Back in my era, there were so many opportunities. Even if I wasn't a Miss Olympia, even if I didn't win a show, if I placed in the money, people open up the magazines and they see my picture and they're like, "Oh my God, I like her physique. I really like her."
yeah,
And you left, you have the interviews, you left your contact information. They would contact you and say, "Hey, we're starting a bodybuilding here. We think you'd be great. Would you like to come?" Everything was paid for. There
yeah.
is not a cent come out of my pocket when I traveled.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I discovered you, this was like it. I mean, when you became pro, I was in high school, and that was the time I discovered, female body. Well, paid attention to female bodybuilders. I think you guys stood out then than all these competitors now. Like some of them, I don't even know their names a lot of times. Like if I do know their names, it just slips away like that. Like your name, it would just like just stay in my head because it wasn't that too many of you guys. So it was more it was just easy to remember. But then, like the years after a while, not didn't really pay attention. I didn't really have no knowledge of these divisions, and so I was just lost. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the thing is that back in the day, yeah, you used to catch it on like ESPN, and also Fox News used to show it.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like when ESPN stopped showing because Disney bought it out, and it said because it wasn't seen as very popular. Because remember, you have people like Angela Langer was on was a show where they were working out,
Right.
yeah, and you see Linda on that show, and you'll see quite a few bodybuilders. Then we got here, man. Shout out to my man, Execution 23 coming through. Says salute George Page and panel. Thank you, brother. So where we're getting into here, what I did was I did a little searching and I found a little video, guys. I know you guys are fans. That's why you come here. because you love these ladies. And I'm going to pull it up. Y'all can check it out, and and show you respect to the lovely Mrs. Nancy Lewis. And she is with the legends here. You have quite a few ladies back then. I mean, there was Debbie Mugley, there was
Yeah.
you, Denise. Just it was an amazing lineup back then.
Yeah. It's like the NBA of female bodybuilding back in the days. Yeah.
Yeah, you have Linda right there, who was she was the top dog then. I mean, I think there's Kim Perez right there because
Paris. Yeah.
yeah,
Paris.
because I think by the time you were here she is right there. This goes Nancy.
Yeah.
You know, there's Ricky Gates right there in the back. It showed Nancy again. You know, you ever you miss those days, Nancy, when how it used to be in bodybuilding?
Do I miss those days?
Yeah.
I do, because it was new, it was exciting, and honestly, to tell you the truth, when I was a child, um, I started in track and field, but I said, and I put it, I didn't know about the universe, but I just put it out loud. And I said, you know what? I want to be a professional athlete. That's what I want to be when I grow up. I didn't say what type of professional athlete, but I was blessed to be a professional bodybuilder. I also said, I want to travel, I want to live abroad, I want to see what other cultures are like and what they do. And this sport allowed me to do that. So I miss those days of traveling. I miss the competitive aspect and obviously having everything paid for. When competing, I miss the team that I worked with, and it was a good time for me because I lived the life that I asked for. That was my first phase of my life that I wanted to do. These are the things that I want to do, and I got to do those things. And if I had to go back and do it again, I would do it all over again. There would be nothing that I would change about being a female bodybuilding going in that direction because the opportunities were endless for me.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite pictures here where the girl is I mean on the backstage and the all up Nancy. Oh my God. And I can't help it. I think you had one of the I would say honestly most beautiful physiques back then. You still are an amazing lady, And like I said again, I think if people were really more open and understand about bodybuilding, especially either the men and the women, I think he has a chance. But because they're always going to use that thing about steroids and this and that and this and that, but don't understand the work you have put in. And the thing about the fit model division is because it's so easy. Now you still get bikini came in, it's supposed to be, very mainstream. But now, if you look at the bikini competitors, me and Kia have any bikini competitors who look even bigger. There's some women that were competing back in your day.
Yes. Yeah, like I was saying, George, the sport has evolved, and it's going to continue to evolve. And when you look at PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, they've been around forever. They're not going anywhere, and they want to, I think, always poke the bear with bodybuilding in general. It's in every sport. Period. You're asking, and this is just common sense, George. Um, if I ask my body, right, we're looking at PEDs and let's look at peptides. All right, so if I ask my body on a daily basis, all right, body, I need you to go in. This is leg day. I need you to squat 500. We need to go deep into the hole. Then I need you to do leg presses, 700 or 800 pounds. Then we need to do lunges, right? Then we need to do some deadlifts, some leg curls. Whatever. That's my leg day, hypothetically. Okay. Give my legs a break. Then I go back in and I ask it to do the same thing. How long do you think that recovery is actually going to be since you just traumatized, right? The legs, quads, and hands, okay, your receptors, everything else. Do you think it's ever going to get fully recovered without some type of help? That is like I said, is it going to be recovered without some type of help? Where do you think injuries come from? If you're not doing anything extremely stupid, if you've warmed up, right, and you're not pressing more than you should, how do you think athletes normally get injured? Unless, like in football, somebody gets tackled and they fall down or break something. But if you're doing everything that you should, and you go into the gym, you feel good, right? You hit that squat or you hit something, you're not fully recovered to do that exercise, even though in your mind you are. Does PEDs help that? I think so, to a certain point. Does peptides help that? Yes. They allow you to recover quicker so that you can go on and keep doing the same thing. You still got to eat, you still got to train. So even if you took away steroids and you went to PEDs and you, let's say you get the same results, do you think that society would say, oh, they're drug free? No, because society is used to seeing your norm. We are never the norm. We will always be outside of the norm. And when something is outside the norm that you don't understand, you don't care to understand in research, you make an excuse for their success. Sometimes you might be bang on. He may be taking PEDs, he may be taking peptides, but unless you're there, you can always make an assumption. But unless you're there, it's just an assumption. And you know what they say about assumptions or assuming something.
Yeah, we make assume you get asked out of you more than me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that's, so like I said, George, it doesn't matter. You still have to train. You still have to eat properly. You still got to bust your ass in the gym. And recovery is for any professional athlete. Recovery is probably the most important thing. Why do you think they have red light therapy? Why do you think they have the TENS unit now? Why do you think those athletes go and soak in ice? We didn't. I don't think back in my day we had the ice soaking. The TENS unit and the red light therapy may have just been coming out back then in the 80s, but it isn't like it is today. Again, evolution. It's evolved. Athletes are much better, and so things have to evolve with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nicole here, she's an OCB competitor, and they do natural bodybuilding. And Nicole, like your experience, how the training is much different compared to do use peptides or use a kind of performance enhancers.
I view it like I said. I think the trend is. I think people still have the basic of PEDs. They're never going to go away. It is for some people like eggs and oatmeal, or you know what I mean, like egg whites is to bodybuilding, right? It's never going to go away. But I think that we're smarter in the way that we use them, and I think that we're smarter now because we have peptides and we can alternate and we can make better combinations.
I think Nicole wanted. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Nicole wanted was going to say something.
Yeah. What was Nicole about to say something?
Yeah. My coach recently told me about peptides, but it's on the water band from OCB. But my coach saying that's not actually a. She was saying it's not actually pets, and she's same thing. She said it definitely would help with recovery. So, but with me, I don't know from my experience. Well, yeah, we've had this conversation, George and Kay. Why I chose not to why I chose the natural bodybuilding route because I used to go to the gym with my dad, and when I saw these physiques with these guys, they look so like, wow, how did they get to look like that? That's like, to me, I was just like, oh my God, because it wasn't something that you would normally see every day. Even today, you don't see stuff like that. You don't see people that walk around looking like super jacked and lean and vascular or whatever. So he was like, nah, they're doing stuff to get that big. He's always told, my dad, it was like his way or the highway, like, don't do that. That stuff is not good for you. Don't have that. So I was taught just to not do it because it wasn't good for you. I don't like I said, but I agree. It doesn't mean whether you choose to be natural or enhanced, it doesn't matter. You still got to put in that work. It's still a lot of work. Like I worked like my ass off before I did this OCB show. I trained 3 years before I competed in that show because I wanted to bring the best possible package I could bring. So, but nah, regardless of what, if you choose to be enhanced or not, that's a that's a personal choice. But it's still you still got to put the work in. And as for women's bodybuilding, it's like me personally, I don't think I could ever achieve like I agree with you. I don't think I could ever achieve that physique, even if I was like had a really strict diet, ate a lot of calories or whatever, did everything I had to do. That's a very difficult physique to achieve. And like, I'm not squatting. Who am I kidding? I'm not squatting 500 ever in my life, probably. The most I've ever squatted was 225. Even that, I was like, nah, I don't think I want to go any higher than that. So, and that took me a while to get to that point. And I haven't been able to do it since that was years ago. So,
Yeah, I think also
but
takes a lot of time for you to recover compared to enhanced competitor because you're not taking any kind of peptide or any kind of
Mhm.
you know any kind of drug that can gear that helps you to recover because you're doing it naturally. It takes you a lot longer to pop back in and jump in the gym next day.
Yeah.
yeah, like my rest days are like, and I remember when I first started bodybuilding, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can train every single day. So I was just like, it was like so silly to it. I didn't have really, back then I didn't have good guidance. So I never really recovered well. But now I have like a really good coach. And like, let me tell you, my rest days, I look forward to them because it really does help me recharge my battery. So I can continue to train the way I do. I think my training is like I'm just very consistent. Me, I'm just like slow and steady progress. If something's off, something doesn't feel like my knees are kind of hurting me, so I'm going to see my chiro tomorrow. But yeah, I'm getting older. I pay attention to everything. Like rest days are super important. I think rest days are just as important as training days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, with this sport as it evolved, as Nancy was talking, how it's evolved over time, and then it wasn't that long ago that women's body was always pushed out, and now if you look at it now, physique is getting a stink eye. There's some shows that dropped it. There was St. Louis Pro. I interviewed Marika Jones, and that was she was the last woman to win the title there. One lady I interviewed also, Yvonne Pitterton. She was the last lady to win the title at the Legion Sports Show. It's coming up this month. Even an interview lady told me that figure is getting pushed out of shows, and you see that Arnold had kicked all three of those divisions from the show. Plus, 212. But with 212, those guys they can either go up to men's open or they can go down to men's classic. They're in between. They're in between, as you could say. But I think with some women, you look at it now because Pittsburgh Pro's coming up this weekend, and there's some competitors I'm looking at that look like they're more of the aesthetic of you know women's bodybuilding. For this is this Rachel Daniels. Her. We call her the real Lois Lane, and she's always posting, and and I've seen how she's really has evolved. You know, some say where you see her goes. Some say she might be more closer to women's bodybuilding if you look at her. What's your opinions?
She's women's physique.
Where's Z?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she could pass by a woman's bodybuilder.
What's your point, Nancy? Because you've been in a sport long, this long, longer than most of us. You can see from your eye what you see.
Are you asking me to I see a woman that can knock on the door of female bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this goes to what I was saying earlier about the evolution of the sport and the classes. Because, like I said, from the pictures that I see here, the ones that you're showing me, she can definitely cross over. She might need to refine a couple of things, but there's no reason, and this is, like I said, physique. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So she can definitely cross over to female bodybuilding. And this is one of the examples that I was mentioning earlier when I mentioned Andrea and Ashley. Um, this is not where they started when they first implemented this class. They weren't like this, and this is where they are today. And they're only going to evolve more. So you're going to have to either have that meeting that we don't want to see striated glutes. We don't want to see hard and drawn faces. We want you to be a little fuller, not as hard. If not, then it's going to continue to evolve, and then they're going to be a different class, but technically female bodybuilders,
Mhm.
and
And here
that's
she is. Yeah, and yeah, here we have Lola Montez, who is top three in figure. Because that's another level. We look at it. We talked about Sid earlier, and it's just I don't know. I think that as you say, Nancy, they do need that discussion. And it could be done like this. You can get together enough people. You don't have to, bring it back to one room. You do this. You take the top competitors, put them all in a room. You can do a teleconference, and you invite Jake Wood, uh, Jim Mannion, Steve Weinberger, Dan Solomon, Daniel Williamson, Tyler Mannion, as he's the next protege, and then you have people like Andrea Sansadua, Sarah Vilgas, and just hey, we have a problem. If we're seeing women in bikini looking like women in figure, and you're seeing women in figure looking like women in physique, and then you bring this new division that eventually it's going to end up being just like the last division that was bikini that was and wellness. I just interviewed uh, Phil Robert Phil, who's the wellness master. He really most of his competitors are wellnesses, but he has across with the other ones. There needs to be a serious sit down talk to figure out what is going to happen, especially if some of these competitors. It could be a chance that the division might go extinct.
well, that was that's what I'm curious about. And unfortunately, the season has already started, and normally, if you're going to have that conversation, it's usually done in the beginning of the season, or they send out these notices, on new rules, on how they're judging now, or what they're looking for. But like I said, I agree. So I'm just really curious as to how this is all going to unfold as the women continue to evolve to be better and better and get in better and better condition. Brings me back to this fit category. What am I looking for in the fit category? What exactly is fit? What is your definition of fit category? Because it can't be physique. It can't be fitness. Is it somewhere? Is it bikini? Then fit? You know what I mean? Then fitness and figure. Where is it going to fit in? And how are they supposed to look?
Mm-hmm.
That's my question. And I haven't really seen anything. Maybe Nicole, you have. I haven't seen anything that's come out to say in the fit category, this is what we're looking for. Because
Well,
they have to have that.
well, I know a while back, Tyler Mannion, he put out a little presser when they announced the new fit model division, and you know, and he said was basically he put out what it's going to be and what it's going to be about. I'm trying to pull it up if I can find it. I know it's on his. He posted on his IG, and it's supposed to be go back to a classic look that was like. Let's see.
From
It's
the
supposed
from the 90s or from the late 80s?
more like 2014.
Okay.
It posted with a competitor. Her name was. I forgot the girl's name. Posted it. Trying to find it. It's somewhere. It's breaking news. We announced it. You know, but it's supposed to go back to. I forgot the girl's name. There's a lot of recaps here. You folks, so talk amongst yourself. But he announced it a while back. But the look supposed to be totally different from, I believe. Let's see if this it. It might be here. Let's see. Is it here? No. I'll find it eventually. But the look is supposed to look like totally different from uh closer to the idea of what women's body when bikini first started out. And he wanted to go back to the look that it was right about 20, like I think about 2014, 2015.
So
I'm just as confused as you are. Trust me, I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to find something. I think it's somewhere around here. Let me see if I can find it here. Fit model and the yeah, here it is. And this is the I just put it up. And all right. All right, here I go. I found a site. They will show it. All right. Here it is. And this is the look they want to go back to. And it's based on a competitor. I think her name I don't get the name here, but this is the look they're looking at. It looks like bikini in a way, but the suits are going to be different. It's not going to be as fancy as the suits y'all wear now. Especially if you are, it's going to be like basic suits. Nothing too like the jewelry and all the shine. They're looking at a particular look that's a throwback. And this is what they're looking at. This is what they want. They want they want the nice conditioning. They want the nice shape, but still want a more softer feminine look compared to what you see in bikini now.
okay, and for me, that's what bikini started like.
Hmm. And so that's where they want to go. They want to go back to how bikini first started. That's fit model. The thing is, how long can it stay that way?
But that's what I'm saying. Every sport evolves. It's inevitable. And um, I just, like I said, George,
Hmm?
I understand the reasoning behind it. Like I said, you don't implement something unless there's a demand or you feel that it's much needed, and you can bring in more of the mainstream. This look right here that you just shared with us is extremely mainstream to me. This for me is a woman who I could see on the beach and say, oh, she looks good. She looks like she might train a little bit. Probably really, but when you're looking at caps on the shoulders or any something of that nature, a nice deep six pack, it's none of that. She's just a woman in shape, and that's something that I think your average female would like to look like. Nothing intimidating, right? Because she doesn't really have, in my opinion, any visible muscle. We know that she's toned, but if she did a side chest, you're not going to see the pecs popping out. If she did a tricep, you're not going to see the horseshoe. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it's not anything that's threatening to your male counterpart, your average male counterpart. And it's like I said, again, something that I see could definitely be introduced to your mainstream if they can keep it that way.
That'd
That's
be the
that's the that's going to be the question. Can you keep that the way that it is right here and now? Because history tells me that you haven't been able to do it.
hmm that'd be the problem because you know what? Some of those girls, after a while, are going to evolve and grow and develop and put on size and muscle because bodybuilding is a very um, influential sport, especially if you get into it, especially when you're young competitors. It's how some people look at it. Look at it's a teenage division for like young girls, but I've seen that some are doing women over 40 to 50, and and I don't know how many women at that age is going to maintain that tight, taunt, kind of just I guess get off the beach or just get out of the gym look at that age group.
It's you know what, George, it's challenging, but I think that once you have that combination, you have it. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, when you're older, the body changes, the hormones changes, so there's a lot of things going on, and that's something uh, that's more challenging as you get older, as compared to when you're in a younger age in your 20s and 30s. It's not that hard to control. As you get older, it takes a little longer to recover. It takes a little longer to see those changes. But once you get the combination that works for you, George, it can definitely it's definitely possible.
Hmm
That much, it's harder work, but it's definitely possible because most of the female bodybuilders that I know that did the sport that were on the high end, they're vain. All right, they're vain and they're not about to look like a couch potato. So, so they are they're definitely going to stay on top of the game.
Well, we have a comment from my man here, Raheem Hamilton coming through. Says, "Wow, Nancy Lewis on the show." Yes, she's a friend of mine. I asked if she want to come by and give her thoughts because she's been competing for sport for a very long time. She has seen sport has evolved and grown over the years. And the thing is, I think that's the concern. This new division coming in and how it's going to affect because I think they're going to start doing pro shows next year. And then I think the Olympia, I think it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna go to Olympia next year or the year after next. You just gotta get the bodies first, and then the thing is the time, because you can think about it. If you get promoters that picks up that division, especially in the pros, we talked earlier. You gotta think about it. If you have bikini competitors, it takes them practically all day, especially do shows that have like 10 divisions. Like some shows would do like maybe 6 or 8. Some would do the full 10. They have men's open, 212, classic, physique, fitness, women's physique, figure, bodybuilding, and then you bring this new show in, which is number 11, number 7 for women's. That means that some promoters have to make a choice. So for the room and time, they have to cut, especially the prejudging, and then if you are pro am, which is very popular because the pro make money from amateur competitors. The many bodies you can get on a show, especially get amateur competitors, that's where you make your money at. And then again with fit models, they can't do crossovers because they're limited. They don't want that because if crossover, that means that you might have a girl say, I want to do bikini, but say you can't do bikini, you got to do this division exactly. But after a while, you're going to see some promoters and maybe even eventually the IFB well, hey, let cross over because, hey, that's money for you.
Yeah, it's I can say, George, it's just really going to be interesting because what I've observed is when they have these new classes coming in, they push female bodybuilding to the side. And then we don't have that many shows. Um, and then again, like I said, I don't know what the tickets are. I don't know what the profits are, but just kind of common sense as a promoter. If I was doing female bodybuilding, let's say last year, let's say I had female bodybuilding and I had bikini because there's so many bikini girls, right? And I had a couple of more of the classes, and I did my numbers, and I like, okay, women's bodybuilding didn't bring in any money for me at all. But now I have this new class coming up, which is fit, and I have so many entries, for this class. Well, damn, I'm already in the positive. I'm already out of the red zone. Well, I know what female bodybuilding has done for me. I'm just going to drop this. I'm not going to have it this year, and I'm going to go at this with fit and the other classes that made me money in the previous years. That's just good business sense. And this is my concern of what I fear. And then I'm assuming they're going to have their own pot of prize money. You know what I mean? Because I guess the promoter, what I mean, is whoever is going to be promoting the show, they're going to come to a decision on how much they're going to be making. But I just don't want this new class to come up because it is more attainable. And when you look at it, it's for me, it's just like a girl in a bikini, in shape, on the beach. But it is, like I said, it's non-threatening and it's attainable to your average girl who doesn't want to look like me or who doesn't want to look like physique, who doesn't want to put in as much work as you need to put in to be in those categories, but is already, let's say, active. She might be in her 20s. She's already active. She plays volleyball, does sports, and she can put on the suit and do this. You know what I mean?
I think
So, yeah. So, there you have it, which is probably a lot of the ladies that just train and work out and look good, and she might be able to walk away with 3 bands, or let's say three. I'm sorry, $3,000. You know, um, without a little work, and promoter might have 50 entries as compared to female bodybuilding. He may only have 4. What do you think his choice is going to be?
It's gonna be with that division. We got something, Kay? Because I heard you about to say something.
yeah, I mean, if they made it like a bit more interesting, like have them do certain things, like dance or something like creative, it could be different. Like I look at them like they're kind of the same. They just stand and do poses and stuff, with the exception of fitness division. I think it probably would draw attention because I mean there was a time where the bodybuilders, the women bodybuilders would do like masquerades and wear costumes and stuff. I don't know what happened to that. So I think George explained it, or Keith or somebody. But if they if it was more different, maybe it would draw more attention to people. But I don't think it's gonna do anything really. It's just there. Maybe it'll have its own fans because the bikini division, they have their own fans. It's not a lot of people, but they do have support. I mean, I would think that this fitness model, the people would they'll gain some fans or supporters with it, but not. I don't think it's going to be a lot. Because I've witnessed. I've attended my first show. In New York Pro, I went as a spectator, not a bodybuilder, but I've seen that when the bikini competitors, they go last, a lot of people, they leave out, the auditorium and stuff like that. But there be people that they'll stay and they'll give their support. And I've seen it in natural bodybuilding too. But I think the natural bodybuilding shows, they're more supportive than the one in the IFBB Pro. That's just my opinion. So, that's all. I'm gonna land my plane on that.
Yeah.
No, and I have to agree with you. Um, I can say that in my era, the night show, it was definitely that it was a show, and it was for the audience. Uh, they would, and this is before Jim Mannion um, was the president. We would actually have rehearsals with the Miss International and the Olympia on how we all were going to enter the stage. And we would also go over where we could enter the stage at, where we were going to enter the stage, when we wanted our lights to come on, when we wanted our lights to go off. So all of that was pre-done. So they really took extra care because you guys are paying a lot of money to see that show at night. So the least we could do is give you a good show. And we had the whole stage. All the stage had good lighting. We weren't in a box. Like now they paint that little, they have that box tape or the X. If you go out of the light, you're not going to have good lighting. We had the whole stage. If you go back into the 90s, you'll see even the men, we used that whole stage. We jumped down into the audience and had audience interaction, which made the night show more exciting, which made people want to come, to the night show. But keep in mind, too, we didn't have the internet. They couldn't log on and go to my IG, you know what I mean, and get pictures. They had to either look by the magazines or they had to go to the show to physically see me or go to one of my guest appearances to meet me and take pictures and do all of those things. I have observed that with the men, how I feel they stay relevant is I can't turn on my IG. I can't go to YouTube without somebody doing a training video, or they're having like a group of the top three and they're all training and they're doing this and they're doing that. They're interviewing on this show, they're interviewing on that show. So, and as they're leading up to the competition, and they're constantly putting out things on their IG and on the YouTube of how they're looking. You're like, oh, I want to see this. When it comes on, I'm going to live stream because I want to see if this person wins or that person wins. It gives you something to be excited for because you're wondering, okay, how is he going to look? Hypothetical situation. You had Hottie, you had Derek, you had Fitzgerald, and you had Samson. I think there was some new guy. Let's look at the Olympia. You had some new guy. All the way up until the Olympia, I couldn't turn on my IG, nor could I turn on YouTube without seeing something about those four, and all of them talking something. So for me,